Welcome back to the TLS channel. I am On Guard, and today we are going to be doing a deck profile for the Destined Rivals format. Ethan's Ho-Oh EX is a new Pokemon card coming out in Destined Rivals, and it has the ability Golden Flame, which allows you to attach up to 2 basic Fire Energy cards from your hand to one of your benched Ethan's Pokemon, including itself. So with 2 Ho-Oh on board, you can set up a Ho-Oh in a single turn and swing with its attack Shining Feather, which deals 160 damage for 4 fire and heals 50 from each of your Pokemon. This on its own is not great. However, paired with Fire Off Armarouge, you can move these accelerated energies to a variety of different attackers. Now let's jump right into the deck list. So starting off, we have the 3 Ethan's Ho-Oh EX, which, as I said before, allows you to accelerate a bunch of fire energy onto the field with the Golden Flame ability, and can attack in a pinch with Shining Feather. And then we have the Armarouge with Fire Off, which lets you move as many fire energy from your benched Pokemon to your active Pokemon as often as you want during your turn. Flame Cannon is also a nice attack that you can use in a pinch against some of those wall attackers, such as Mimikyu and the new Crustle that's coming out with the ability Mysterious Stone House. Having a fire-type attacker that can hit into that Crustle is super nice as an option in the deck. We also are definitely playing 3 of the 70 HP Will-O-Wisp Charcadets, mainly because this, for a 1 energy cost, is knocking out Budew, which is super nice, because Budew is a super popular and super relevant card, and being able to knock it out with a 1 energy attacker on a 1 prizer is super nice. Obviously, we're playing a 3-3 line of this and 3 Ethan's Ho-Oh to be able to get them onto the field as consistently as possible, as they are our key components of the deck. Then we have Wellspring Mask Ogerpon EX, which you can also burst into play very quickly with a singular Ethan's Ho-Oh acceleration, plus Armarouge to move up the 2 energy, and attaching for turn either a basic water energy or a luminous energy, allowing you to Torrential Pump, do 100 to the active and 120 to a bench, and potentially take a very early 2 single prize knockout. We also, in addition to this, have the Iron Hands EX to be able to also take those early 2 prize turns on 1 prizers, which for 3 energy, so attachment turn 1, Ethan's Ho-Oh turn 2, accelerating 2, and then attach for turn, or just 2 Ethan's Ho-Oh and then attach for turn the lightning onto the Iron Hands, is a super nice option to have. Going back to the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon for just a second, Sob is also a super relevant attack into a lot of matchups, and can buy you a bunch of turns, over the course of many games, of course, to be able to accelerate more energy into play using the Ethan's Ho-Oh ability. Iron Hands is also super nice for keeping us on our 2-2-2 prize map, and then we can go swinging for the fences as they get bigger Pokemon into play. For example, versus Dragapult, we can swing with the Lily's Clefairy EX. With the ability Fairy Zone, it is turning opponents' Dragon-type Pokemon into Psychic Weak Pokemon. So with Full Moon Rondo, which is only 2 energies, so you won't even necessarily need to use Armarouge in order to set this up, you could just attack twice, or just move up a singular fire energy, which is super cost-effective, to swing with Full Moon Rondo for 20 plus 20 more damage for each bench Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's. In addition to being very good into Dragapult, it is also just a very solid attacker in a lot of other matchups. Although we are not playing Area 0 in this particular build, it can still swing fairly heavily, and if your opponent is also playing Area 0, you can make use of that because our Wellspring Ogerpon is a Terra Pokemon. Moving on to the next one, the Lily's Clefairy also buffs the Mew EX, which with Genome Hacking, which we can set up super easily with this deck, is able to copy a Phantom Dive, and with Lily's Clefairy in play, also giving that Dragapult a Psychic Weakness, we can Phantom Dive it to knock it out and spread 60 to our opponent's board, which, paired with Howlucha, we can take a 3 prize turn fairly easily. Another nice use of Howlucha is being able to flying entry a Pikachu EX in the Joltik box matchup, allowing us to pull it up and then KO it, turning off its ability because it won't be at full health after we ping it. Mew EX is also just a very good draw support card in this deck, considering how often we will be playing down our hand by just flooding a bunch of energy from our hand onto our Ho-Ohs, or discarding a bunch of things with Earthen Vessel and Ultra Ball, so Restart will get a lot of value in this deck, and it having Free Retreat means that it is a very good pivot for the games that you are not able to get Latias EX into play. Latias EX's ability is your basic Pokemon in play have no retreat cost, which is super useful for being able to set up a variety of attackers and retreat into whichever one is ideal for the scenario, based on the cards that you draw in a given turn. Then we have the Fezandipiti EX, which anytime one of our Pokemon is knocked out, we are able to draw 3 cards, which our deck does not have a very high draw engine, so we're relying pretty heavily on just our Supporter for turn, Mew EX, and Fezandipiti EX. So this is a super relevant card to be playing in this deck especially. But obviously this card is in like every deck as well. It's just a solid draw 3 in most situations. Then we've got Squawkabilly EX with Squawk and Seize. At the very beginning of the game, we can discard our hand and draw 6 cards to be able to get our board set up a little bit easier. Since we are wanting to get a Stage 1 into play and it is the key component of our deck, it is very important that we get our Char Cadets down and have enough on board to make sure at least one stays alive long enough to get our attackers set up. Motivate is also not a bad attack going second, because you can just flood energy on field without necessarily needing the Armor Rouge, but that's really, really in a pinch. Like, you do not want to do that very often, but it may come up in certain matchups. Then we've got Blood Moon Ursaluna EX. Because late in the game you may run out of energies or resources to be able to set up the next attacker that would be ideal, sometimes it is just great to be able to close out the game with a very cheap attacker. Being able to swing for 240 damage for a single energy when your opponent is on 2 prizes is a super relevant finisher in so many different decks, and this deck is no different. Blood Moon Ursaluna EX is a fantastic closer to a variety of games, but one niche that this one has in this deck over others is that we can swing with Blood Moon so much earlier. So your opponent takes 2 prizes, all you need is 3 energy to swing for 240. That is insane value for this card. One threat is the Team Rocket's Watchtower that's coming out, so when that is in play, this thing does not have an ability. So in most of those cases, we don't want to actually be swinging with it, but we do have stadiums to bump it just in case. Then we have our Giga 1-prize attacker, Regigigas, with the attack Jewel Breaker for 4 colorless energy. So 2 Ethan's Ho-Oh procs in a single turn. Jewel Breaker does 100 damage plus 230 more damage if the opponent's active is a Terra Pokemon. This is knocking out not only Dragapult, but also Charizard, which is super relevant considering we don't have a ton of other attackers that deal with Charizard fairly easily. In most cases, we'll want to Iron Hands or Wellspring Ogerpon them early, but when they get that big Charizard into play, the Regigigas will be our very relevant attacker. And then, as I said before, we also have Hawlucha to be able to put 1 damage counter on 2 of our opponent's bench Pokemon, which can set up for specific KOs in a variety of different matchups, including Joltik Box on Pikachu, or a 3-prize turn against Dragapult. We then have 3 Professor's Research. Discarding your hand and drawing 7 cards is very good. Our deck wants to be going through its deck very, very quickly in order to get our attackers set up as quickly as possible, and we have a variety of ways to get things back, so we don't really care too much if we are pitching things early. We also have 3 Carmines to be able to use this on turn 1 going first, because this deck is very much a going first deck. You want to be discarding your hand and drawing 5 cards super early, getting down as many things as possible as early as you can, just to have as consistent a game as possible to be able to swing with whatever attacker you may want. We then have 2 Iono for a bit of disruption. It's also just more good draw, which is super solid, but in the late game becomes a super good disruptive option, and when we have both Mew and Fez on field, we can Iono ourselves to low without worrying too much, draw until 3 with Mew, and then draw 3 additional cards with Fez, so it's basically like we drew 6 anyway. We then have 2 Boss's Orders for Gust. We are wanting to be consistently targeting down very specific things, or using whatever attacker would be best to take as many prizes as possible in whatever situation we want. Now, in addition to these two boss's orders, we also have Prime as a gust as well. This is our ace spec of choice, allowing us to switch in one of our opponent's bench Pokemon and switch our active with one of our bench Pokemon. This is useful for resetting our Blood Moon Ursaluna as well, but also paired with Latias EX, we can just go back into whatever attacker we want. It's also just nice that we have a switching effect in the deck, even if it is just the one Prime Catcher. Because Sob is kind of scary in this situation, although theoretically we can actually swing with Eon Blade with the one Psychic, a Luminous, and a Fire. So, theoretically, literally everything in this deck can attack, including the Howlucha. The Howlucha can also swing with Wing Attack with Luminous Energy. So, although Sob can be scary, you can deal with being Sob-locked. We also have 4 Nest Balls to search out our basics, 4 Ultra Balls to search out any of our Pokemon, and it is going to be good for finding our Armarouge to be able to get our Fire-Offs into play. We've got 3 Earthen Vessel for finding our Fires and our 3 one-of basic energies. We've got 3 Night Stretchers for being able to get back any of our Pokemon or basic energies throughout the game. We've got 2 Superior Energy Retrievals, because a Superior Energy Retrieval just means that we are getting, at minimum, 2 energy into play off of a Ho-Oh, and then we can grab back whichever one we want to grab for turn. Most of the time we'll be grabbing 3 fire and 1 of these, or just straight up 4 fire to accelerate 2 of each of Ethan's Ho-Oh EX, which is super nice. Then we, as I said before, have the Prime Catcher as our ace spec, and our stadium of choice is Jamming Tower. There are a lot of relevant tools, and this turns them off, allowing you to more easily KO things, which, against Raging Bolt when they have a Bravery Charm in play, this is super relevant. Against Dragapult when they have Rescue Board or EXP Share or Luxurious Cape in play, it's super nice to be able to turn those off and remove their utility, so they're keeping less energy in play, or their Budu is just getting knocked out far earlier. Then we've got 7 fires, 1 lightning for the Iron Hands, 1 water for the Wellspring, 1 psychic for the Lily's Clefairy, and then we have 2 luminous energy, which is super nice to have as like a flex spot, because it can be literally any of these attackers, including giving you the ability to potentially Arm Press, potentially Eon Blade, which I don't know why it moved down there, potentially Eon Blade, and potentially Wing Attack. So that's the list. I hope you enjoyed the list. Give it a shot. It's going to be a ton of fun when Destined Rivals comes out, and I think, unironically, it'll be a very sleeper pick going into NAIC. Hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like and subscribe if you did, and remember, gamers, strike first.